Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, someone is asking, Kofi Bartels, that song you just played, what is it? Who sang it? That's M.I. Abaga. He calls it Plan B. You can get on his Facebook, his account, or stream it wherever you can go on his YouTube. It's there. Very interesting song, very deep song as well. Well, this month of October is Dyslexia Awareness Month, and this morning on the Crossfire, we want to basically tell you what you need to know about dyslexia. Now, I won't tell you what you need to know because I'm just a media guy, radio guy, journalist. I don't know much about these things. I know a little bit. I know something about it, but not everything. And we have someone here who can tell you everything about dyslexia and what you need to know. All right. It's very important because some of you, this could give you information that you can use to make your life or the life of someone out there better. Mrs. Olayide Odediran is Executive Director of Dyslexia Nigeria, and she's with me in the studio. Olayide, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Me on this morning.
How are you doing?
Very well.
You're right on time.
Thank
you. Of course, ready to do the needful to tell our listeners about dyslexia.
Absolutely.
Before that, tell us about Dyslexia Nigeria, the organization.
Oh, thank you. We're a non-profit organization. We were established about 5 years ago. We work to identify and support individuals with dyslexia through a range of services. So awareness building, like being here, thank you for having me. And through screening, diagnostic assessment, teacher training, providing resources, coaching services, basically all of the end-to-end resources and services you would need to identify a child or adult who is dyslexic and support them to build on their strengths and close any gaps in their weaknesses.
Why is this support so important? To support all these range of stakeholders you mentioned, so that you have to have an organization, something, maybe a gap you're trying to fill. Just tell me about it.
Of course, dyslexia is the most common learning difficulty in the whole world. There's 1 in 5 people is dyslexic. So for us, that's about 40 million Nigerians.
Wow.
And in every classroom of about 25 children, you have about 5 children on the dyslexic spectrum. And because dyslexia really is about the way the brain is processing language information, it's the way it's processing reading, writing, spelling, primarily, it means you can't see if a person is dyslexic. So dyslexia exists in all our workplaces, in all our schools, mainstream schools as well, in every walk of life, really. And without the right identification and support, an individual would really struggle with the basic literacy skills that then evolve into further difficulty with academics if it's not supported, and with general life skills and finding meaningful work thereafter. So it's very important to identify and support. And dyslexia comes with significant strengths as well that we all lose as a society if we don't identify and support those, like creativity, innovation, 3D thinking, problem solving. Many of the world's most successful entrepreneurs are dyslexic, and I think we need that here, don't we?
Amazing. So if you're listening, most of the world's
most successful entrepreneurs
are dyslexic.
That's right.
All right. So we'll have to look at that, and we'll look at them one by one. I've already opened that page.
Okay.
I've already opened that page. So look at it. But for those listening, this is very important. Every Thursday we talk health right here on the Morning Crossfire 99.3 Nigeria Info. So dyslexia, what you need to know. Our conversation on Health Thursday. This month, October, is Dyslexia Awareness Month, and that kicked off since October 2nd, and it's going to end on October 8th. Am I correct?
Well, that was Dyslexia Awareness Week. But for the whole month, it goes throughout the month of October to the very end of October.
Fantastic. All right. Well, according to the International Dyslexia Association, it is associated, like she said, with problems with reading, writing, and spelling. And you said that 1 in 5 Nigerians has dyslexia.
1 in 5 of every population. So
yes. That's in Nigeria about 36
about
to
40 million.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
And do they know they have dyslexia?
They may not know that they have dyslexia. They may be struggling with many of the common signs of dyslexia and not know that this is what it really is. Can I tell you some of those signs?
Yes.
Or should we come to that later?
We'll come to that later.
Okay.
So let's start from the top. What is dyslexia?
Great. So dyslexia is a neurological learning difference. Neurological meaning is something that you're born with because that's the way the brain processes information. It's a learning difference because it's a different way of learning how to read, write, spell, process language information. And it comes with a mixed bag of strengths and some challenges. So, like we probably already know, some of those difficulties might be with reading, writing, spelling, maybe with working memory, being able to hold bits of information and manipulate that over time. Also with processing speed, perhaps how quickly you can process information. With some visual difficulties, sometimes some people with dyslexia experience words jumping around a page. So there might be some of those, but it also comes with a huge range of strengths, like I mentioned earlier: creativity, 3D thinking, innovation. But dyslexia really
someone is listening, asking, what is, I know creativity, I know innovation. What is 3D thinking? Let's bring it up for listeners.
Yeah, so that's when, imagine you have a cube, someone who can hold that in their mind, and in their mind see the front, the back, the bottom, the sides of the cube, turn it around. If I turned it left, what would it look like? So something that would be very useful, say in architecture, if you're going to design a building, what would it look like on the other side? What would it look like on this side? If I made this a straight wall, what would the other side sort of mean for the person who lives in this space? Just being able to manipulate space in your mind like that. But dyslexia is something that you're born with. That's why it's neurological in origin, and it cannot be cured because, again, it's the way your brain functions. So it exists through childhood into adulthood. But with early identification and support, the challenges that come with dyslexia can be overcome.
All right. The challenges that come with dyslexia can be overcome.
That's right.
What are the challenges?
So some of those challenges, like we've mentioned, are challenges with reading, writing, and spelling. If I can break that down a little bit. Reading,
writing, and spelling.
That's right.
So childhood is dyslexic. May not read, can't read, or will read slowly, or want to be a bit more descriptive.
Okay, so there's a whole process to learning to read. There's from starting with identifying the sounds and the letters and being able to associate them. Exactly. So if I see a word that says CAT, do I know that sounds k-at, and can I sound that out together as cat? That's phonological awareness. And then being able to do that, if I can do that, can I then know that those elements of words can be separate, and I can take away the C, put an M, and form a new word. So just the familiarity and association of words and sounds. Being able to do that allows you to read quickly. So if you have a challenge with that, you may not be able to sound out words quickly, to read quickly. If it takes you a while to read, then you also might have difficulty comprehending what you read. If you're taking a long time to read through a sentence, at the end of the sentence, you've probably forgotten what you were reading, right? So there might be difficulties there with reading, with spelling. There might be spelling phonetically. So instead of spelling, say, friends as Friends, because it sounds like Frens, they would probably spell it that way. Or spell as Spel, and miss some common spelling rules, if I would say. And then when you sort of go further, that difficulty with reading and comprehending can lead to more challenges with being able to express oneself in written form, limited vocabulary, and having difficulty going through volumes of text to understand.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unawareness, or anyway, so I don't know where to start from. It's a lot. I thought I knew because we hear all this, but hearing you really break it down for me now, for us listeners, to me, it's opening. So it's like I'm learning afresh. Yeah. If you're listening this morning, are you aware of this condition called dyslexia? The challenges that people who are dyslexic face. Do you know anyone who's dyslexic? Do you have dyslexia? Or something you never knew about? You have any question to ask whatsoever? Feel free to call right now. It's Health Thursday right here on the Morning Crossfire. You have to be alive to be able to argue about Supreme Court.
That's right.
You have to be healthy to be able to argue comfortably about certificates. So we will always, pay attention to your health on Thursdays right here on the Morning Crossfire. All right. 0700 993 993. If you have a dyslexic kid or you're not sure if your child is dyslexic, you can call. And Olayide is here to answer your questions.
Absolutely.
All right. 0700 993 993 993. You can call that number. Female listeners, you can call that number. We have an alternative line for you. 01 465 7190. Good morning.
Kofi, good morning.
Very well. Very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us. What's your name?
Lucky Lola from Magboro.
Lucky, please go on.
Yes, I greet your guest in the studio here. This
morning.
topic you are discussing is very interesting. and many parents should learn. But what I want to point out is that what if a child is going through this disorder and the teacher at school, keep beating the child that he can't spell, he can't do that? What would your guess? I want her to talk about that. I mean, the awareness should get to school where teachers will learn, because so many teachers, some of them doesn't know this disorder. They don't know it. So how are they going to handle these children with this disorder? Have a nice day.
All right, thank you very much for your time. So that brings us, you said this condition manifests itself through difficulty in reading, writing, and spelling.
Primarily, yes.
Primarily.
Yes.
Okay, and he is concerned about the misunderstanding from the teachers. In this part of the world, we flog. Is this something that happens a lot?
Yeah, Lucky is very correct. He's raised something that's very important because the primary challenge with it is with something that school focuses so heavily on literacy acquisition. School is one of the first places that dyslexia can be spotted because the child is struggling with already learning to read. The teacher is probably the first person that would notice some of those main signs of dyslexia. And with a lack of awareness, sometimes teachers do get frustrated, and in this part of the world they do go with beating children. That's a totally different topic, sort of beating children for learning. But he is right that many children do suffer in different ways, physically, psychologically, mentally, because of the challenges that they're facing. But what we advocate for, and is the reason why we also do teacher training, is teachers need to have the knowledge to identify, what are the common signs of dyslexia in a classroom and how can I support a child who is dyslexic. And the reason why that's important is because dyslexia is not something that you can address with conventional teaching. So it's not that the teacher is not teaching or not doing a good job of teaching, but that brain needs a different way of the information being processed. For example, we probably need different ways of learning, using multi-sensory mode. So teaching with, hearing and with sight and with touch. And that allows the brain to find different channels to map the information that's been given. So there's specific strategies to teaching a child with dyslexia. And the teacher needs to be aware of those and know how to utilize those so that they can support the child effectively in the classroom.
That's quite interesting, quite deep. So once again, how? Before I come back to this, you said primarily we have difficulty in reading, writing, and spelling.
Yes.
What other ways does dyslexia manifest?
Thank you. So dyslexia is something called a specific learning difficulty, which means that the individual with dyslexia is usually fine in all other areas. So imagine there was a forest of abilities. They're fine with everything else. Probably they're really good at sports, at music, at art, but then they're struggling with this literacy itself. Okay. And that struggle can lead to other things, but also it co-occurs with other things. So it could co-occur with a difficulty with vision. So vision stress, for example, people who either see the words move around or jump around or have difficulty with light sensitivity.
Words literally jump around.
Some individuals with dyslexia do experience that. And dyslexia can also occur with executive function challenges. So working memory can be weak, emotional regulation can be weak as well. Managing time can be a challenge. They might be disorganized. Just different things that allow them cope in everyday life can be a co-occurrence.
I would say you have poor time management. Yeah. Meanwhile, it's something that we need to understand and adapt to the person and help them.
That's right.
It's a lot. I would want you to tell me what a normal day of challenges is like for a dyslexic person. You deal with them, you talk to them, you advocate for them.
Okay, I mean, I'll do my best to paint a picture from my experience, perhaps interacting with individuals who are dyslexic. If we pick a young child, it may start with, an anxiety about going to school. They already don't want to go to school. They're worried about what, someone picking on them in school might be like, reading out in class. They already have that nervousness about it. So they may say, I have a headache, I'm sick, I don't want to go to school, something happened. And there might be that tug of war with the parents in the morning about going to school. Getting to school, it depends on, how they're engaged in school. again, interacting with context and with information that they find difficult to process might be a challenge. So they might find that they're slower than their classmates. They may not catch up if they have to copy words from the board. It might be really slow and they might get left behind. They might get shouted at. Somebody might hit them in school if that's the kind of school they're in. They may not have access to technology to support them like some other dyslexics in other parts of the world might. They might be picked on to read out loud in class, and that's a different form of anxiety, because again, remember those phonological awareness issues. If they can't read fluently and they can't sort of decode the words that they're reading, then people make fun of them in school, they're bullied, and then because they're falling behind on schoolwork, then maybe the teacher says you can't go out to play because you have to catch up on schoolwork. So even the part of school that they might find interesting or exciting or where they can bring out themselves exactly gets taken away. So that's something else. And then if they don't do very well in school and they go home, and depending on how their parents are, maybe they're really angry about that.
Hold on, we'll come to more of that in a jiffy. Let's take a quick break. I'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Well, if you are somebody who is an argumentator in this city of Lagos, then you probably have been keeping your ear out for when the next I Beg to Differ championship is coming up. Well, wait no more, because Lagos, the tournament is officially back and auditions have commenced. Secondary school students from the age of 13 to 16 can compete for the grand prize of 1 million naira. Yes, 1 million naira. You heard me. And that person will be crowned winner, obviously, with the bragging rights and everything that comes along with it. Now, registration has already started and it will end on October the 20th. How to register, you're probably asking yourself. Well, wait no more. I'm here to drop that on you. Upload a 4-minute sound recording of yourself, 2 minutes arguing in favor of and 2 minutes arguing against. This is so that we can see just how good you are. We want to hear you arguing from both sides so that we can see how good you are arguing on either side of a topic that has been given to you. Successful candidates will be contacted via their emails or their parents' emails for that matter. To enter the championship proper, visit www.nigeriainfo.fm to begin your registration and probably your way to stardom. Yes, because stars have been made on that show, I Beg to Differ. So go and register and start your path to stardom.
This is an infomercial.
All right, we're set to go for another commercial break, but if you're listening to us or watching, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, so you can go search on Nigeria Info FM and you can see the beauty of the studio and of course my guests as well right here with me in the studio. But we'll take another commercial break. We're discussing dyslexia, what you need to know. It's very important that you know about it so you can identify and deal with it. We'll be right back.
The Morning Crossfire continues after this.
on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, welcome back. It's still Dyslexia, what you need to know. Our guest is comfortably seated here. We have just a few minutes before we go. Basically telling you what you need to know about dyslexia. What is dyslexia? We've got to learn about that. How does it manifest, or how does it present itself? What are the symptoms and... Do I call symptoms?
Dyslexia?
Okay, science, yeah. All right, Mrs. Olayide Odediran is Executive Director of Dyslexia Nigeria. She's with us in the studio. You've told us that dyslexia is basically difficulty in reading, writing, and spelling, primarily.
Yes.
But it also presents itself as through vision challenges.
Yeah.
You talked about executive function challenges as well.
Right.
All right, so how does one diagnose?
Thank you for that question. It's the most important one, I think. So, first of all, if you notice any signs of dyslexia, you might want to go for a dyslexia screening, especially if the child is young, under 6 years old, showing some signs. You might want to do a screening just to see if there are some concrete areas about dyslexia that they're struggling with. But that's not a diagnosis. If a child is showing several signs of dyslexia, you want to go for a diagnostic assessment. You have to go to a qualified professional to do that. So, for example, at Dyslexia Nigeria, we have qualified assessors to do that. A diagnostic assessment will take anywhere between 4 to 6 hours to complete, and it will be a series of tests and activities that allow us to assess a range of aspects, from reading, writing, spelling, intelligence, understanding, comprehension, just a range of tests that allow to then build a cognitive profile for the of the individual, of their strengths and their weaknesses. So that's really what diagnosing dyslexia looks like. You have to go to a qualified professional to do that, and you have a comprehensive report at the end that gives you a cognitive profile of the individual.
Okay, and how do you manage such a person? To help them live in spite of the medication, or just basically, deal with the psychological aspect of it?
Thank you. So, first of all, dyslexia doesn't affect intelligence. So, in fact, most people who have dyslexia are very intelligent.
Like Albert Einstein, you told me he was dyslexic.
Exactly, Einstein was dyslexic. Like I said, there are many successful entrepreneurs that are dyslexic. It doesn't affect intelligence
Richard
at
Branson.
all. Richard Branson is dyslexic.
Of Virgin.
Oh, yes.
Amazing.
Yes. So how do you manage sort of the psychological sides of dyslexia? First of all, identifying what the gaps are to be met in terms of perhaps writing or spelling is important, so that you can put concrete strategies in for teaching, for practicing, so that the person gets better at doing those things over time. But also just knowing how to deal with a person who is going through something that's different from what you're used to is important. How a teacher engages, for example, ways that keep a child's confidence going, let them know and remember that they are good at many other things, even if they might be struggling at this one thing. That thing itself is important. Building the person's self-esteem is important, and allowing them to express themselves in other ways that they find aligned with their strengths gives the person the reassurance that they are of value and that there's so much more that they can bring besides reading, writing, and spelling directly.
Okay.
Dyslexia cannot be treated with medicine, because it's the way the brain processes. An educational challenge of learning,
so
and
it's not a sickness.
It's not health. It's not a health issue. No, it's not a sickness.
Just a learning difficulty.
It's a learning difference.
Difference.
Yes.
Difference.
It's a difference.
We're learning every day. Okay. Yeah. So parents out there, what's the advice for parents and teachers who may have kids and children who are dyslexic, but they don't know. Maybe they've observed some things. What do you want to say to them?
Okay. Know the signs of dyslexia. Go to our website, www.dyslexianigeria.com. Know the signs of dyslexia. If you spot any of those signs, the school, my child is showing the signs. Do you observe any of these? Should we do a dyslexia screening? If you identify that in school, again, know the signs of dyslexia. Take a basic understanding dyslexia course. We have one online. It's very affordable. This month, we have many spots that are going for free also. www.courses.dyslexianigeria.com. Very simple 2 hour and a half, training that allows you to identify this, know how to support in the classroom. If the child is showing more signs of dyslexia, please contact a professional, contact us for a diagnostic assessment. And in everything that you're doing in engagement, be empathetic. Understand that somebody who's struggling with these things is trying their best. They're perhaps putting in more effort than somebody else who's finding it easy. We have something called the spaghetti scenario that I like to use at Dyslexia Nigeria, which is, you're teaching children how to eat spaghetti and you can't see the cutlery that they have, and you have a fork and teaching them how to twirl, and some kids keep getting the spaghetti on the floor. Perhaps they have a spoon. The challenge is not that they're not trying to spoon the spaghetti into their mouths. They're trying very hard, harder than someone who has a fork. But maybe we have to teach them how to bend the spoon so that it can twirl spaghetti, or we have to chop up the spaghetti into bits so they can spoon it.
Right.
So the child doesn't have a challenge, just we have to find a way to make it work.
Right. We'll be back after this announcement so we can say proper goodbye.
All right. Thank you.
Are you an importer, distributor, or dealer?
DYSLEXIA Nigeria .com, or you can send us a WhatsApp on 0810-753-1682. You can send us a DM on Instagram at Dyslexia Nigeria. I think those are the top ones.
All right. Dyslexia Nigeria on Instagram.
Yes, please.
Her name is Olayide Odediran. She is Executive Director, Dyslexia Nigeria. It's been really, really informative. I've learned a lot, and I know our listeners have too. Calls are coming in, but because of time, we couldn't take them. We'll have you back, certainly.
Thanks, Kofi. This was wonderful.
We'll have all of you back, and she's not alone in the studio. But thank you for your time. I'll be back in a minute or so to give you my goodbyes.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We'll be back.
Hey, my people, how na day? We know the times still hard, but higher them will cool.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. 99